So I'll be discussing managing personal data breaches. So when we talk about data breaches, what comes to mind first, at least in the Philippine context, would probably be what happened to the Comelec earlier this year. It was discussed earlier this morning that there was, as of March, I think sometime in March of this year, there was a massive data breach with the Comelec involving the personal information, even sensitive personal information of registered voters. So, but what exactly is a personal data breach? A personal data breach is a breach of security leading to the accidental or unlawful destruction, loss, alteration, unauthorized disclosure of or access to personal data, transmitted, stored, or otherwise processed. It could be an availability breach, integrity breach, or confidentiality breach. Availability breach happens due to loss or destruction of data. Integrity breach due to alteration of personal data. And confidentiality breach due to the unauthorized disclosure or access to personal data. How do we differentiate a personal data breach from a security incident? A security incident is an event or an occurrence which affects or tends to affect data protection, or it may compromise the availability, integrity, and confidentiality of personal data. It includes incidents which would have been a personal data breach had it not been for the safeguards which were put in place. With these definitions, all personal data breaches are security incidents, but not all security incidents are personal data breaches. The Security Incident Management Policy is a policy required to be implemented by the personal information controllers or processors. These policies must ensure the following: creation of the data breach team, implementation of organizational, physical, and technical security measures, implementation of an incident response policy, mitigation of possible harm due to the negative consequences of a personal data breach, and compliance with the Data Privacy Act. For the data breach response team, it is required that information controllers or processors must constitute a team. This team should have at least one member. The team is empowered or with the authority to make immediate actions or decisions regarding critical action. The team may include the data protection officer. The team is responsible for the implementation of the security management incident policy, management of incidents and breaches, as well as the compliance of the information controller or processor with the relevant provisions of the Data Privacy Act, the implementing rules, and related issuances of the Commission. Kindly note also that the functions of the data breach response team may be outsourced. Now, I forgot to mention earlier that the succeeding slides are also based on NPC Circular 16-03. It has been approved by the Commission but has not yet been posted in the website. So just check out the website in the coming days for the posting of the circular. So the circular provides for several guidelines for the incident response policy, for the prevention or minimization of personal data breaches. For prevention of personal data breach, there are several items which the circular not really requires but suggests or proposes to be included therein. So one would be conduct of the privacy impact assessment. This was discussed earlier this morning. The data governance policy that ensures adherence to the principles of transparency, legitimate purpose, and proportionality. It could also include implementation of appropriate security measures to ensure that personal data is, or to ensure the confidentiality, availability, and integrity of personal data. Regular monitoring of breaches, capacity building of personnel in the case of security incidents and personal data breaches, as well as procedure for the regular review of policies. The incident response policy and procedure is mainly for the guidance of the data breach response team. So it may include certain safeguards or measures such as a procedure for the discovery of security incidents, clear reporting lines in case of a breach, the conduct of preliminary assessments, evaluation of incidents and breaches, procedures for contacting law enforcement in case the breach or the incident involves the commission of a crime, or procedures for notifying the commission and the data subjects when the breach is subject to notification requirements. As to notifications, the circular, the law, the implementing rules, and the circular require notification to both the commission and the affected data subjects in case of a data breach. If the personal information controller believes that there is unauthorized acquisition likely to cause a real risk of serious harm to the affected data subject. If notification is mandatory if there is knowledge or there is reasonable belief by the controller or by the processor that personal data breach has occurred under the following conditions. It involves personal data which may be sensitive personal information or other information that may be used to enable identity fraud. So what are other information that may be used to enable identity fraud? This includes your unique identifiers such as your social security number, your tax identification number, usernames, passwords, other login data. Another condition is there is reason to believe that the information was acquired by a person not authorized. And the personal information controller or the commission believes that the unauthorized acquisition is likely to give rise to a serious risk or serious harm to the affected data subjects. Now, if there is doubt as to whether you need to notify the commission or the data subjects, there are several factors which may be considered. The personal controller should take into account whether the information would likely affect national security, public order, public safety, or public health, whether it involves at least 100 individuals, whether the information is required by law or by regulation to be confidential, or whether it is personal data of vulnerable groups. As mentioned, the notification is made to the commission as well as the affected data subjects. Notification to the commission within 72 hours from knowledge or reasonable belief that a personal data breach has occurred, you must notify the commission on the details of the data breach. It could be delayed, the notification could be delayed, but only to the extent that the personal information controller would need to know the scope or the extent of the breach, would need to restore integrity to the system. However, there can be no delay if at least 100 individuals or at least 100 data subjects are affected, or the disclosure of sensitive personal information will harm or adversely affect the data subjects. Note also that a full report of the personal data breach is required to be submitted within 5 days, unless the commission would grant an extension. Notification is in the form of a report, whether written or electronic. It should contain the details of the breach, the nature of the breach, or the approximate number of the data subjects affected, what data are involved, whether sensitive personal information or other information, as well as measures to be taken to address the breach, or proposed to be taken to secure or to recover the personal data compromised, and the name and contact details of the data protection officer. Notification to the data subject, it's actually the same notification, similar content to the notification to the commission, except that you need to include instructions on how the data subject would be able to get further information and recommendations on how to minimize further risks. Note also that the circular requires that there is notification individually to each affected data subject. However, if individual notification is not possible, or if it would require disproportionate effort, then you may request the commission for approval to use alternative means of communication with the data subjects. Exemptions from notification requirements. So, as mentioned earlier, you need to notify each of the affected data subjects. But if notification is not in the public interest or not in the interest of the data subject, then the personal information controller may be exempted. There are also other factors to consider, such as security measures implemented or applied to the data, such that when compromised, the personal data can no longer be used by the person who is not authorized to access it. Or there were subsequent measures after the breach, such that the risk for the harm and for the serious harm to the data subject will not materialize, as well as the age or legal capacity of the affected data subjects. Investigation of a breach or a security incident, the Commission is also empowered to conduct investigations of incidents or security breaches, depending on the nature of the incident or whether there is delay in the notification or there is failure to notify the Commission. The investigation shall be governed by the rules of the Commission. Reportorial requirements. So all security incidents and data breaches must be documented through reports. So, including those which are not covered by notification requirements. For personal data breaches, it requires a report which is more comprehensive than that of a report for security incidents, because reports for security incidents could contain just aggregated data. However, the Commission would require the submission annually of a summary of all the reports for incidents as well as breaches. So this would be the general information, including number of incidents and breaches, classified according to their impact on the availability, integrity, and confidentiality of personal data. In summary, what should government agencies do after the occurrence of a personal data breach? So we should produce a comprehensive report of the breach, assess adequacy of the actions and decisions taken by the data breach response team, determine gaps, and evaluate the effectiveness of policies and procedures, conduct training for personnel who are engaged in processing, update technology and systems for efficiency, produce a comprehensive evaluate the incident mechanism mitigation, provide assistance to data subjects and solicit feedback from them, adjust organizational, physical, and technical security measures, and monitor risk communications and discovery and reporting methods. So this is the last slide. I think there's a lot of information regarding data breach that you would need to digest. So if there are further clarifications or questions, we will address them later on at the open forum. Thank you.